All right, everybody, back from a little coffee break, and I think I may have messed up. I clicked the wrong button, so this may end up being two separate videos that are going to go onto the YouTube channel. So I'm going to go click the wrong button. I hit the pause button. I hit the save button by accident when I came back, and it saved it, and it won't let me go back to continue to record. So, anyways, we'll keep rolling, and then I'll put it as chapter 2A and chapter 2B. So there'll be two separate videos in there, so you'll have to watch both of those. So power as a leadership resource. So basically, power is the capacity of one party to influence over another party. We have legitimate power, which target believes agent has the right to make requests and target has obligation to comply. So the reward power, target complies to obtain rewards believed to be controlled by the agent. So they're talking about people to people, right? Target and agent. And then reward power is if I do good things, I will get, like, this is how the bonus world works in corporate America. If I do good things, they're going to reward me with money. Expert power is a target complies due to the belief that the agent has special knowledge. And then so that's like the brand new probationary firefighter and the 20-year captain, that they're going to actually listen to what they say because they know that that person has more knowledge than they do. And then referent power is a target complies due to admiration or identification with the agent and seeks approval. And that's all part of being a servant leader, is you want those people that are your subordinates or your followers to look at you and say, hey, I want to be like that guy, right? So that is something that we're going to use. And then coercive power, this is not good. Target complies to avoid punishment believed to be controlled by the agent. So if you're walking around in fear all day long of your leader, your station captain, your battalion chief, that is not going to be productive. Personal power includes expert and referent power, reflects effectiveness of the individual. Positional power is defined by the role an individual has within the organization, includes legitimate, reward, and coercive power. So positional power, for example, as a battalion chief, I oversee 5 captains, half of the fire district, and then I'm overseen by the deputy fire chief, who oversees 6 battalion chiefs and the entire district, and then the fire chief oversees everything, right? And then informational power, based on target assessment of agent's ability to discover or obtain relevant information rapidly, and usually through cultivated network of sources. So that's a good thing to have too, that we'll be able to get answers to questions from knowing different people. Ecological power is controlled over the physical environment, technology, or organization of work. Target behavior based on perceptions of opportunities and constraints, right? So for us, we're going to have that personal power. The positional power is a real thing because we're going to be in charge. And then we're going to have that information power as well. We're not going to have a huge say in our environment, in like where we work and everything. Obviously, how you clean it and how you maintain it, you have control over that. But not necessarily like you're not going to get a new fire station or whatever. So basic leadership concepts prevail when considering two unique challenges. Fire station as a work location and leading a volunteer fire company. So we're going to be with the people that we work with, whether you're working a Kelly schedule, which is 24 on and 24 off. So you do 24 on, off 24, on 24, off 24, on 24, off for 4 days. Or you do a traditional 48-96 is what we do. You're on for 48 hours, and then you're off for 96 hours. So literally 1/3 of your life is going to be spent with the people that you work with in the fire station. So that takes a different type of leadership than you would in an 8-to-5 job working at the Ace Hardware. So fire stations create a powerful and special community that is difficult to compare with other workplaces. The fire station is a home away from home. can lead to a variety of productivity problems and behavioral personality traits associated with a dysfunctional family. So just like you can have dysfunctional family members at home, you can have them at work. And then you can have people that don't want to do their chores. They're not willing to wash the engine. They're not going to load the dishwasher, unload the dishwasher, constantly not doing dailies. Dailies are when we sweep, mop, empty the trash, and clean the toilets and do all that. And the word dailies means that the fire station gets cleaned daily, right? Vacuum the carpets, all that kind of stuff, right? Behavioral issues are more severe than a typical workplace because we're actually living with them. So case law and administrative action reinforce that stations are subject to the same rules and expectations as any other workplace, right? So they can't be under the influence of alcohol. You have to show up and do your job. You have to wake up for calls at nighttime. You have to do work within your medical scope of practice. You have to follow the rules and policies and procedures. It's just going to be for longer periods of time. You must balance expectations of the employer with the realities of the fire station environment. So they may want you to do all of this crazy stuff. And there's fire departments out there that require a lot of their employees, but there's only so many hours in a day. And then you got to put emergency responses in with that. You're not going to be able to get everything done every single day you come to work. That's on your to-do list, right? So you got to educate the employees on workplace rules and regulations that define their expected behavior. And then we're going to do what's promote the use of on-duty speech. And this is stolen directly from me from somehow, or other people are actually doing the same thing, is be the designated adult. I tell my captains every single time we have an issue, you are the designated adult in the room. So basically, firefighters are all 8th graders trapped in grown human beings' bodies, right? And that's the male and female. They like to have fun and joke around and chase each other around the station. And if they want to work out, they want to work out all day. Somebody has to be the adult and says, time to do your chores, right? So that's part of your thing. Talking about on-duty speech. So yes, you have a First Amendment protected speech in the United States of America. But you have to be careful with that First Amendment right that you have, because you're actually, during your scope of employment, there's a law that says you're not allowed to have any political activity while you're on duty and in uniform. So, because that could influence people out in the public that they want me to vote a certain way. They're firefighters. I trust them and everything else. It would put that, the person that is on the other side that's running against a candidate or against there's a law that we're voting yes or no on that it could be used to the advantage, right, of whatever you support. So you cannot do political speech, and there's law that says that you can't do it, right? Not a policy from the fire department. There's a law that says you can't do it. And we've had people run their mouth, and so you guys don't know this, and I'm sure you do because you're younger than me, is that every single thing that you do when you step outside of your house is going to be recorded. Just plan on it. Ring cameras, GoPros, dash cameras, iPhone, Samsung, whatever, right? Everything is getting recorded and then it's getting posted on the internet. So remember, on-duty speech, be the designated adult. Walk around stations at various times during working hour to observe what's going on. Intended to make sure everything is functioning properly. Routinely determine what crew members are doing and check safety of facility and equipment. Look out for unexpected situations and surprises. Having the reputation of reacting to appropriate situation goes a long way toward encouraging appropriate workplace behavior. We've had issues in the past. We had a firefighter that worked here years ago that actually liked to mess with people when they were brand new and they would jump in the shower and he would go grab a handful of soap and he would slide his hand between the curtain and the wall and he would start soaping their back. Okay, so that is called sexual harassment or just straight harassment. Like that employee had multiple talkings to. but everybody thought it was hilarious, so it was very difficult to curb that because the group of firefighters thought it was so funny, and he didn't discriminate. He did it against every new person that would walk into the fire station, and he would plot and plan that out and put soap on his hand and then rub their back while they were in the shower, right? Was meant to be hilarious, but if somebody got a lawyer that was the one in the shower, they would clean the fire department's bank account out. Unacceptable behavior. Your job to stop that kind of stuff from going on in the fire department. Officer leading volunteer companies have to rely on leadership skills even more than municipal departments. The reason that those people are there is not because they're getting a paycheck. It's because of pride, group identity, personal commitment, and then they want to be there. They're active and they're loyal. They care about their fellow man. They're there every single day. They show up after work. They clean. They do everything a full-time firefighter does and gets paid for. They do it for free, right? So you're going to have to be that servant leader for them and build that trust and respect with them so that they want to be there. Like if you treat them like total crap, why would you be there doing it for free if your leader is going to treat you like crap? That makes no sense, right? So you got to be alert for issues that create conflict or frustration. And effective leadership is strongest force for influencing performance and commitment, and that's treating them right. Treating them right. So some of the unique issues in the volunteer fire department are changes in employment, family situations, child care, elder care. So as things happen to people in their lives, they already have a full-time job because they got to eat. So if they get a change in their employment, they have a loved one that passed away, or the parents move and they can't watch the kids anymore when you have a call or you need to go to drill, they may have to bow out, right? So that's where we work together as a team. I've seen some volunteer fire companies where the wife is a volunteer firefighter, the husband is not. One of the other fire companies, it's a single dad, and that single dad is a volunteer, but when he goes on a call, he has no one to watch his son. So he drops the son off over at the other firefighter's spouse's house, and then the dad watches the couple kids. So you work together as a team, and you basically you encourage that kind of behavior, right? It's like we take care of one another, right? We're family. Fire department is family. So one of the other things that we're coming up against now is they're expecting all firefighters nationwide to do a minimum of 2 hours of training every single week. So that's 52 weeks. That's 104 hours of training. That's a bitch to try to make that as a volunteer. So like a lot of folks are doing 8 hours on a Saturday, and that's a long time, or on a Sunday, and then they have a Wednesday night drill. So they have to set it up where you're going to do some computer-based training, and then you're going to do some hands-on training at the firehouse. So by doing that, you can meet that 104 hours of 2 hours per week, but you're going to have to split it up, and then you're going to have a policy in your volunteer fire department that you have to make this many Saturday drills, and then you have to make this many Wednesday drills, and you have to do all of your computer training, and then it just needs to add up to 102 hours so you can meet all of the NFPA and OSHA requirements that they've put on us to be firefighters, right? And then remember that you're going to have interpersonal relationship conflicts between members out there. People are going to get pissy with each other and everything. You got to get in the middle of that. You cannot let it fester. If you do, I've seen entire volunteer fire departments split up over people having squabbles, and that is not good. So 4 phases of volunteer participation is large loss of applicants during the initial firefighter training, small loss during probationary period, and moderate to high loss 3rd to 6th years. And then recommitment between 15 and 18th years. Volunteers who never left significantly increased time, and many who left start returning. This group forms a core of your volunteer fire department. You'll see a lot of younger people and a lot of older people in the volunteer fire department. So, and that just goes. And then why do you lose them at the 3rd to 6th year and then get them back at the 15th and the 18th year? Simple, right? Their kids have grown. Like they want to be at home with their kids. You're not going to go out on calls on Christmas and Thanksgiving and 4th of July and take them out trick-or-treating on Halloween. all those things, right? But once the kids hit 18, they're doing or when they're old enough to take care of themselves at home, and then boom, they're recommitted back to the fire department. They're a little bit older now. You're going to have to do some retraining with them, but you're going to get that group back, right? So, special concern in volunteer organization is political balance that results from electing officers. A lot of the officers in some organizations are actually called commissioners. So they act as the leadership for the fire department. And if you have a bad commissioner or commissioners on your board, they can drive your volunteer firefighters away. That is no good, right? So you have to have a balance. And then these people are going to expect their volunteer firefighters to go walk for them. And remember, you can be involved in political activity when you're off duty and out of uniform. So you throw on a gray T-shirt with the Fire Department Association logo, not the official Fire Department T-shirt on that says, it says Wilton Fire Department, Ione Fire Department, French Camp, whatever it is, right? You put on a regular hold on, I got to put you on pause. I got a phone call I got to take. Stand by. Okay, thanks for holding. That was a veterinarian office calling about our dog. All right. So talking about political balance in the volunteer fire agencies, you're going to have to walk the precincts and ask people to vote, make signs, do all that. But the people that are elected, they've got to be really careful with how much of an iron fist they rule with, because you got to have rules and policies, and everything's got to be done according to occupational safety and health and National Fire Protection Association and all that. But you got to be careful. You can't drive people away and be an autocratic or authoritarian leader all the time pounding your fist, because they're going to say bye and leave because they don't need it. They're not getting paid. They're there because they love their community. So you really have to temper yourself if you're going to end up in one of these positions, right? Talking about the Marine Corps leadership principles, the fire service is a decentralized organization. Companies respond from all corners of the community and assemble to handle emergency incidents. Work groups or task forces are created to handle temporary needs of larger incidents. So, for example, Lodi had a couple of large commercial fires about a week ago. I think it was a week ago this Saturday. So like say 10 days ago. And they had one early in the morning and they had one in the afternoon. And we sent units all the way from Elk Grove all the way to Lodi. There was fire engines there from all around Lodi, Woodbridge, and from Liberty Fire, Clements Fire Department, French Camp, Stockton Fire. So we all work together and form up task force to handle those large fires, right? So the conditions create unique leadership needs similar to the military and their small group teams. So that's where we adopted most everything we do is from the United States military. So the Marine Corps 11 leadership principles are: be technically and tactically proficient, know yourself and seek self-improvement, know your Marines and look out for their welfare, keep your Marines informed, set the example, ensure assigned tasks are understood, supervised and accomplished, train your Marines as a team, make sound decisions, develop a sense of responsibilities among your subordinates, employ your command in accordance with its capabilities, and then seek responsibility and take responsibility for your actions. Leadership traits: justice, judgment, dependability, initiative, decisiveness, tact, integrity. There's the I word again, integrity. Enthusiasm, bearing, unselfishness, courage, knowledge, loyalty, and endurance. So HRM, Human Resources Management, is basically each individual place is going to have their own human resources department, and you're going to be directly connected to HR, at least at the point of people taking vacation, people using sick leave, what we call open enrollment period, where people are going to get new, they want to change their health insurance, they want to change the amount of money that's deducted in taxes. All of these things that you're going to go through your human resource management. So we have in our department, we have a administrative deputy chief that actually is in charge of all the HR things, that works with the HR group. but it's going to be your job as a fire officer to make sure that those workers get all of those benefits that they need. When it's time for them to get a pay raise, they have to have an annual evaluation. It's your job to evaluate them. They can't get an annual pay raise or what's called a step increase for the first 5 years that they work there without an evaluation. So you have to make sure that you get your employee all of the stuff that they need. So we're going to direct and coordinate the workers' efforts, provide necessary tools and resources, ensure the outcome meets the standard. And then the fire department operations are labor intensive, requiring skilled workers, duh. And then to be effective, most develop skills directly related to managing human resources. So basically what they've decided to call people now instead of employees or whatever is you are a human resource, right? We have mechanical resources, which are fire engines, ladder truck squads, ambulances, tools and equipment. And then we have you, the human resource, us, the human resource, right? The focus on the task of managing people using physical, financial, and time assets emerged during the Industrial Revolution. HMR includes human resource planning, employee labor relations, staffing, human resources development, performance management, which means that's when we're going to be doing evaluations on people. I write an evaluation on individuals every single month. You have to do a short evaluation on them. It's a click box that you go through, and you're basically judging their performance from the month before. Then you got to make sure that they've got the correct compensation and benefit packages, and then their health, their safety, and their security is all part of what you're going to be doing as part of HRM. Make sure you have the right number of people in the right place at the right time who can accomplish that task effectively and efficiently. And then forecasting future staffing needs, determining how the needs can be met, and not conducted at company level unless development and incident action plan. So basically this is done by our staffing officer, right? So we don't have to go looking for people to work for the day. We have a thing called Telestaff where all of the employees' positions are tracked on a giant Excel spreadsheet that's interactive, that you can take vacation, you can call out sick, you can do all those things. And then if say you're going to call out sick for tomorrow, and you do it right now on your iPhone, and you click it, and anytime you can call out sick before 6 p.m. via using your phone. If not, you got to call them directly. Then the staffing officer will then go to the list, and they'll page it out. Hey, anybody want to work tomorrow? And if they don't want to work, then we go to a list, and we actually volunteer somebody that they're going to be working tomorrow. So it's called mandatory overtime. It's 100% legal for utility companies like PG&E, SMUD, fire departments, law enforcement, and nursing. You can mandate people to come back to work, right? A lot of places don't do it. We absolutely have to do it to make sure you have to have butts in the seat every single day, right? And then employee relations includes all activities designed to maintain that rapport with the membership. So we have a labor organization. We're part of the International Association of Firefighters, Local 522, which is Folsom, West Sac, Sacramento City, Sacramento Metro, and us. I think it might be Placer and Roseville might be in there, but I think Roseville might be different. Fire officers must know and understand agreements between labor and the fire department. So labor as in the labor union. Be aware of laws regulating relationships between employees and employer. So think about fraternization, skipping the chain of command. Like it's a big deal if a firefighter just decides to start calling the fire chief and complaining. That's not cool. That's not what we do, right? You got to maintain that we're going to keep that level of commitment to each other, that we're going to follow that chain of command. From firefighter to lieutenant, lieutenant to captain, captain to battalion chief to assistant or deputy chief to the fire department. So, I don't call the fire chief directly either, and I'm a battalion chief, right? So we keep that thing on the relationship between the employer and the employees kind of separated, right? Officers who violate the law may quickly be faced with federal complaint. So you have to be careful of what you do out there. As a supervisor, there's all kinds of laws, human resources laws, sexual harassment laws that absolutely are federal and state mandated that you have to do training on every other year. And then the higher you go in the organization, you have to do that training more often. So staffing is a process of attracting, selecting, and maintaining an adequate workforce or supply of labor. Traditionally attracted good applicants. Recruiting becoming more difficult. Once again, 38% decrease in fire applications nationwide. I'll give you an idea. We're looking for qualified firefighter 1, paramedics. We're looking to hire 24 people in our academy. We had 153 applicants that qualified. Back in my day, when I was applying, I applied at Sac City, Stockton, Davis, Fresno, and I was competing in Stockton. I stood in line with 3,000 people to take the written examination. 3,000. So now your chance of getting hired in the fire service is greatly improved as long as you do all of the work that's necessary. You're going to have to get your EMT. You're going to need to go through a fire academy. If you want to be a paramedic and work for an ALS fire department, like any one of us, Folsom, Roseville, Sac Metro, Sac City, Cosumnes Fire, soon to be Lodi, Stockton, those are ALS, Tracy Fire Department. You're going to need to go to paramedic school as well. Once you get those credentials, start applying, and then show up, be in good physical condition, be able to do the California Physical Ability Test and pass that. You are literally going to get a job, right? It's completely a buyer's market right now. So now is the time to be doing all the stuff you guys are doing. So we have programs out there called Develop Programs to Seek Qualified Women and Minorities. That's called DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusivity. We actually have a DEI program as well, but we also take anybody that walks through the front door. We don't give preferential treatment to people based on their ethnicity or their gender. What we give them preference on is are they qualified and do they test well for the fire department, right? Now, I can tell you that our fire chief likes people that are local. He does give veterans preference points, and then people that are interns with our fire department, he also gives preference points for that because you've already shown a commitment that you're going to come and work here. And see how it says maintaining an adequate supply of labor? We have what's called a recruitment and retention problem in America right now where folks are literally they're not wanting to be firefighters. So if you can go on to TikTok and make $10,000 a month, making little videos of whatever that you're into, or Instagram or whatever, and you get sponsors, and there's people that are making, $10, $15, $20, $25,000 a month. Like, why would you bother going to fire academy? You got to get sweaty, you got to get physically fit, all that. Well, because there's something in your heart that wants to help other people, and you're not helping people by being on TikTok for the most part, right? So thinking about labor force reductions, we went through this for a while too, furloughs and attrition rather than termination, where they cut back. We did brownout of stations in 2008 because of decrease in funding due to the housing market that began to collapse. So we weren't collecting as much tax money, which is where fire departments get their money. So that's horrible, right? So we had stations that had fire engines parked in them when nobody was working there. Focus on increasing work hours without increasing pay. That also happened as well. We went several years without receiving any pay, and we worked the same amount of hours and more and got the same amount of pay because they only had so much money. And then staffing function typically accomplished at the organizational level. So that's going to be done at the city council does not hire our firefighters or the town council. We at the fire department, we're the ones that put together the things that we need to be able to choose the appropriate candidate, and then we test them, and everything has been vetted, right? We don't just pick people that we love. We actually test everybody the exact same. You're going to go through the California Professional Firefighters, CPF, CPAT testing, California Agility Test, right? So you're going to do that, and then you have to have a paramedic license from the state of California and National Registry, and then you can fill out an application. right? Got to have a high school diploma. And then we bring you in, and the first thing that we do is we medically test your skills. So we test you on a call where somebody's having difficulty breathing or chest pain, and then they go from that to where they die in front of you, and you have to put in all of your resuscitation efforts. So testing your paramedic skill. Obviously, we don't do that to EMTs. We do, it's got to, obviously with EMT, it's BLS, not ALS. And then they go through that test. If you pass that, and then you go on to an oral board with a group of captains, engineers, and firefighters. If you make it through that, then you go on to what's a chief's oral. Then they do what's called a ranked list. And then if we say we have 50 people on the list, we go down starting with number 1 and we start offering jobs. That's called a conditional offer of employment. You're not hired yet. We're offering you the opportunity to be background investigated, drug screened, go to a medical doctor for clearances, all those things. Once you get through all that and you have a background investigation that looks at your criminal background, it looks at your credit, it looks at everything. They're going to examine you to make sure you're a person of integrity, right? And then they offer you a unconditional offer of employment, and they tell you when the academy starts. Then you're on probation. Currently, we've just changed our probation from 18 months to 1 year, which means you're going to be in the academy for 6 months. So when you get out, you're only going to be on probation in the stations for 6 months. Probation is part of the hiring process. You can be released from a fire department without cause within that 1 year period without any explanation. They'll bring you in and say, I'm sorry, you have not met the level of the probationary firefighter that we need you to meet, and you are no longer employed with the fire department. And that's all you're going to get, right? And then you can go, and then most people go to different fire departments because there's a fire department for everybody. And, you know, maybe you need help with your medic schools. You go back and work on an ambulance in Stockton or Sacramento and get some real experience out there on the ambulance if that's the issue or whatever, right? So all of these things are all about recruitment and retention and hiring practices that everybody has to do. So part of the HRD or HRM is activities and training and educating your employees. Are heavily dependent upon the company officer or fire officer level to be able to teach the new employees how to do their job, OJT, on-the-job training. And then we're going to start developing you the second that you step on the training grounds when you're in the academy. Our whole job is to make you successful, right? You should understand the mission statement for the fire department, right? And then we have a formal document that outlines like we have a mission, we have a vision statement, and ours, part of it is that we're going to exceed the public's expectations at all times, right? Not meet the expectations, exceed their expectations at all times. So getting completed, assignments completed, make effective use of your time, called time management. You got to lay out the day, grab a sheet of paper. If you've got to go do pub ed at the school, you got to do an inspection. You're going to do training that day. You're going to have to do your EMS supply orders. You're going to run calls. You got to empty the trash. You need to make time for everything throughout the day and form a schedule for the day. Whip out a piece of binder paper or a notepad and get everything written down, and then check that stuff off as you get it done. There's nothing wrong with a to-do list. I operate off of one. I put it up in the morning when I get to work. I do a conference call, like I said earlier, with all my captains, and then I form out what are we going to do for the day, right? Works out awesome. So we're going to determine what needs to get done that day, when they must be completed, how long it'll take, what needs to be done during the shift, week, the month of the year, right? That's pre-planning your, so we got today, we got the whole week, we got the month, we got the year. Items that must be completed during shift are higher priority, so we may shift those up. We may shift those up a notch. And then items that must be completed during the plan ahead and expect interruptions, right? If you have one big fire, say we have a grass fire out in Wilton that's mutual aid and us and Harold and Wilton and Sac Metro go out there and it's got a bunch of old outbuilding. There's a bunch of junk piled around on the ground out there that's burning old cars and tractors and stuff. And we're out there for 8 hours. Your whole plan may be gone, right? So depending on emergencies, what's going on around in the county is going to determine what gets done throughout that day. Dang it, I can't grab this. All right. So some of the things that you're going to be are going to take everybody to get done. Some tasks are going to actually be overwhelming, right? Where you're going to be like, dude, I do not want to do this, and I am sorry I keep clicking on that, you guys. I'm trying to scroll this up. So you're going to have to plan. Maybe you eat that elephant one bite at a time, right? Monthly calendar can help you out. You have your own private calendar on your computer at work that you're allowed to track things on. And then daily file can help. Page describes each activity and when it should be completed. And then don't be afraid to delegate, right? So delegate out to your subordinates what needs to get done that day and that week. It's going to help them grow. You're giving them responsibility. You're showing them that you trust them to get work done, right? All of those things are going to be super helpful. So, and then effective company officer delegation, 7 steps to delegate something. You're going to define the desired results. So what do I want to have it look like when it's done? Select the appropriate firefighter, right person for the job. Determine the level of delegation, how much you're going to give to them. Clarify the expectations and set parameters. What is called this is called task, state, and task. Shoot, I just had it and then I lost it. Basically, it's the task that you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and then the end state, right? Task, purpose, and end state. So the task, what it is, the purpose of why you're doing it, and what it's supposed to look like at the end. I use that all the time, even on the fire ground. Task, you guys are going to take fire attack. I need you to pull ceiling in the attic. And then the purpose is to extinguish the attic fire. And then the end state is all the fire in the attic goes out, right? Pretty simple. So, and then you're going to provide background information if you have time and arrange feedback during the process, right? So step 3 involves the options of take action independently, no need to report back when you're delegating. So that's operating under leader's intent. Take action or report back when you're done. So that is typically what I like to see, so I know. Like I'll tell guys, hey man, when you get done with that assignment, if it's a regular day-to-day assignment, just text me when you're done, right? And then provide 2 or more recommended actions which company officer can choose. Provide information about the pros and cons of different recommendations. So just give them ideas and parameters that they're going to work within. Say, hey, you can try this, you can try that, and then just let me know when you're done, right? Crew resource management that we talked about earlier, talking about working with the aircraft and aerospace industry and how they do stuff, right? So crew resource management is a behavioral approach to reducing high human error and high risk or high consequent activities, requires focused attention, openness to concerns, and time-sensitive information. So developed in NASA in response to a plane crash, United Flight number 173 in 1978. Resistance to mandatory CRM training continued until United Airlines 232 experienced catastrophic engine failure, but pilots were able to land the plane thanks to the CRM training. So if you remember Sully Sullivan, when he landed his that airplane in the Hudson River, right? He was going to crash and kill everybody on board, but they used crew resource management in their training to safely land that aircraft. So 80% reduction in aviation's industry accident rate because of system-wide CRM, designed to train team members how to achieve maximum mission effectiveness in time-constrained environment under stress. Universal utility, timeless applicability, developed by Professor Heimlich and the staff at University of Texas, Heimlich, sorry. And then dramatic value for aerospace, aviation, military, maritime, and medical professions. So DuPont, if you guys don't know, they make a lot of chemicals, they make a lot of materials. They're the one, the DuPont family is the one who came up with the development of Narcan or naloxone nasal spray and injectable that we use for reversing opiate overdoses that has saved millions and millions of lives in the United States. So this is their dirty dozen reasons and ways humans make mistakes, right? So the lack of communication, complacency, lack of knowledge, distraction, lack of teamwork, fatigue, lack of resources, pressure, lack of assertiveness, stress, lack of awareness, and the norms, right? So look at what happens in the fire service. On every fatality fire, we always have what's called the NIOSH 5. Lack of communication, complacency in training, lack of knowledge of the fire building and how to extinguish in the fire, lack of knowledge on extinguishing the fire. You get distracted by a smaller incident within the fire. You have lack of teamwork. You have fatigue, where you've been up all night before running medical aid calls. You don't have enough engines on scene. You lack resources. You're under a great deal of pressure to get the fire put out. Stress, which is going to be induced because you're at the fire scene and people are yelling. And then lack of the awareness of things going on around you, called situational awareness, or SITSTAT, situational status, right? All of those things that you've got to be aware of. Human error, this is the Swiss cheese principle right here, that when something happens or you have an aircraft incident or somebody gets killed on the fire ground, it's never just one hole in your cheese. It's multiple holes that are being overlooked that are allowed to continue to happen. So if you look at the top, and organizational influences are you don't train very often, you don't practice with communication, and then that's latent failures and conditions, and you have unsafe supervision, and then you have latent failures and conditions that are continuing there, and then you have preconditions for unsafe acts, latent failure conditions again, and then unsafe act that takes place is an active failure, and then your aircraft crashes. So failed or absent defense hazards. When you notice a hole in your Swiss cheese, you got to fix it right now. So this is Dr. Reason's systems approach to human error management. And then high technology systems have many defense layers, are engineered, people-powered, procedures, and administrative controls. Function is to protect from hazards. But there's always going to be weaknesses out there, right? Each layer, more like Swiss cheese, when you align the holes is when the outcome goes bad. So that's why we fix the holes when we find them, right? Active failures are unsafe acts committed by people in direct contact with situation or system, direct effect on integrity or defenses, not wearing a seatbelt, for example, and latent conditions, that's are inevitable resident pathogens within the system, can translate into error-provoking conditions like understaffing, where you don't have enough people on your fire engine. Rather than them calling back overtime because they want to save money, they run 2 persons on the engine instead of 3. They knew they were doing it. They did it anyways. And that's going to create another hole in your Swiss cheese. You don't have enough people to effectively train together with 2 people on the engine. You have a high call volume. You don't take your engines out of service to go do training, to rest them, to allow them to eat. Another hole in your Swiss cheese. Next thing you know, the holes align and we have a roof collapse on the firefighters and they get killed. Right? I know that sounds like that might be a bit absurd, but this is how it works, right? And create long-lasting weaknesses in your organization by allowing these things to happen. Because this doesn't just happen overnight, right? This is something that's happening over a period of time. And then may lie dormant for years, and then you're going to have a really bad day. So you basically have the CRM is an error management model that involves 3 activities: avoidance, greatest opportunity to prevent errors, errors not avoided are trapped at its second level, and then entrapment are errors that slip through avoidance and require mitigations. Mitigation consequences are actions taken by emergency responders to minimize the accident's effect. So what we do for a living is we mitigate emergencies. There's already been, the avoidance model has not happened. It ends up getting in the trap model, and then it ends up in the mitigation model, and then now we're going to have to mitigate that emergency. So what we do for a living which is called, our priorities are called LIPE or LIPE, LIPE. Our first priority is always life. Second is property. I'm sorry, back that up. I spelled it wrong. Life is L, I is incident stabilization, P is property, and E is the environment, LIPE. So in the CRM model, no one is infallible. Humans create technology, therefore technology is fallible. So you know that on a jet aircraft, commuter aircraft that goes across the United States, around the world, are governed by computers. They had that incident a couple years ago where the flight computer screwed up and they put that Boeing into a nosedive. They were able to finally turn it off and take manual control of the aircraft over. Then they grounded all those aircrafts and they went through all the computer programming to figure out what the hell happened. Right? So you can have problems with technology. And then catastrophes are a result of chain of events. So that is your Swiss cheese that we talked about. Everyone has an obligation to speak up when you see something wrong. We use the term, everyone on the fire ground is a safety officer. People working together effectively are less likely to have accidents. That's absolutely true because somebody's watching out for you. To be effective, every member of the team must participate. Successful transfer and understanding of a thought from one person to another, that's communication skill. Miscommunication includes misinterpretation, poor team mentality, lack of assertiveness, and distractions. That's why when you go into an academy, we're going to teach you the sender and the message. So you have a message, the sender sends the message to the receiver receives the message and then repeats back in a paraphrased manner to the sender that they've received it. That way that the sender knows that they got the right instruction and there's no misinterpretation of that instruction. So we got to develop standardized language. Aircraft has language, the fire service. We use plain text. We have language. And then we're going to teach you to be assertive on the radio and when you communicate. Engine 74, you're going to take fire attack. So they know what fire attack already means. They're going to do exactly what they're told. Engine 75, upon your arrival, water supply for engine 74. Self-explanatory. They're going to get water from a fire hydrant to that engine so they don't run out of water. So standardized language and being assertive. CRM-enriched environment generates climate where freedom to question is encouraged, but not on the fire grounds. We don't question things on the fire grounds. We can make a statement to the battalion commander, command, this is engine 74. I have heavy sagging in the roof. I recommend we remove everybody from the building and go to defensive operation. Copy, heavy sagging in the roof, and we're going to go to defensive operation. He was the sender. I was a receiver. I sent back his message. Next thing I'm going to do, so I'm going to get on the radio and say, evacuate, evacuate, evacuate. We're going defensive on this fire. Evacuate, evacuate, evacuate. And then I tell everybody to report back on the radio, conducting what's called a PAR, Personnel Accountability Report. And I'm going to ask, Engine 74, give me your PAR. I have 4 people all accounted for. Truck 74, 4 people all accounted for. 75, 4 people all accounted for. I know everybody's out of the building now. So we've built in engineered ways to be able to crew resource manage our individual people to make sure that everybody stays safe, right? So we're going to use that speak up respectfully, clear, concise questions and observations. But we're not going to just make suggestions on the fire ground. Remember, fire ground is where you're going to be autocratic. Democratic comes at when it's time to cook dinner. But there are times for if you have you need help and you can ask your crews, hey man, I need a plan B. What do you guys got, right? So discrepancies between what is going on and what should be occurring is often the first indication of an error. So if you see something as your fire officer that should be going on that isn't, or something that shouldn't be going on and is, you need to say something. I like it when my captains will just walk up to the battalion chief rig. I roll down the window and be like, hey man, This is like blah, 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 blah. We need to do this. All right, copy. Go make that happen. And then I'll get on the radio and say Engine 74 is going to be doing whatever, right? They're going to be performing salvage and overhaul on the Bravo side of the building. Inquiry is the process of questioning a situation that causes concern. And then advocacy is a statement of opinion that recommends that the person believes is proper course of action under a specific set of circumstances. The CRM skills require practice and patience, communication to focus on what is right, not who is right. And then remember, assertive statements process use an opening attention getter, and then state your concern, use an owned emotion, and then state the problem as you see it, state a solution, and then obtain agreement or buy-in when you do that. So inquiry and advocacy possess the assertive statement are essential components of communication standard CRM. Office toughest lesson to impart due to interpersonal dynamics. Mastery can enhance performance, preventive mishaps, and save lives. And effective listening is an important part of the CRM skill set. And then refrain from making any response or counter argument until the other individual has trained his or her emotional bubble. What does that mean? That they've actually, you got to make sure that everybody can speak together over a serious item without getting pissed off at one another, right? So we achieve cohesion involves in developing effective team buy-in. Leaders are always in charge, but must be open to feedback. And then we use the incident command system, which provides formal structure for CRM. So we use that. We developed it here in California in the 70s. And we'll go over the incident command in greater detail in other chapters. So remember, we have effective leadership on the top, and then we have leadership skills and trust and respect down on the bottom as part of your CRM. And then the triangle of leadership is what they call this, right, for the CRM leadership model. Respect is based on personal competence, internal strengths, capabilities, and character. Technical competencies, ability to perform tasks using specific knowledge. Social competence, ability to interact effectively with other people of all types and walks of life. And then effective social skills do not require deference. Speak respectfully no matter what. So you're going to have to learn how to do that. If you lose your temper when you get excited, you're going to have to get a handle on that, right? You're going to mentor people, right? Mentoring is extremely essential in the fire service. You don't read a book and go do it. You have to have somebody, you have to read the book, and then you have somebody show you how to do it, and then you have somebody mentor and you do OJT. And that's going to continue on. You're going to have to be willing to admit your mistakes. You're going to make mistakes as a captain, as a firefighter, as an engineer. And then you're going to fix those things, and someone's going to show you how to do it better. And then you're going to share your knowledge. When you have the knowledge, you share it with somebody that doesn't. And when you don't have the knowledge, you should be getting knowledge shared with you by somebody who does. When you handle conflict, you got to do it at the right time and in the right location, right? You can't just lose your mind on the fire ground over something small that you don't like the way it's being done. That's extremely unprofessional, and it's not going to be, you're not going to gain any traction, and you're never going to get anybody to come to an agreement with you if you scream and yell at them over something stupid on the fire ground. Now, if somebody's going to die and the garage beam and header is going to come crashing down on top of their head, and you say, hey, look out, get out of the way, that's not what we're talking about here, right? Talking about handling conflict at the company level, that you're going to have to be able to, once again, focus on what's right, not on who is right. Circle of success. You're going to have the inquiry, statement, and action. So that's the question. You're going to have the advocacy, probe, alert, challenge, and emergency. Conflict resolution, the decision, observe and critique, and then opinions, right? So this goes around. This is the trust, respect, safety, and mission. So CRM does not advocate management by committee, right? We have a lot of people, that's the democratic way of managing. Hey, Bob, what do you think? I don't know, Susie, what do you think? How do you think, what hose line should we pull in on this fire? That's already determined before you even went to the call. You're going to learn that stuff, and then your captain, if he wants to, what we call calling an audible for like a football play, he's going to tell you while you're en route. You're not going to have a committee for him. They're going to tell you what to do. And you as a captain are going to tell them what to do. Someone's got to be in charge. Final Destination, Final Destination, that's a good movie. Final decision rests with recognized authority. So the boss is going to make that final decision. Even if they're taking input, they have to sort out the information and they're going to make that decision. Look at all situation with risk versus gain mentality, what's called risk analysis, right? So risk-benefit analysis should be done. So we risk nothing to gain what is already lost. If you show up, you have a fully involved house fire with fire coming out of every single window and door and fire blowing through the roof. There is, at that point, there's no possibility of a survivor being inside there. So we're going to do what's called a defensive fire attack, and we're going to put water on it from the outside of the house. We're not going to do an aggressive interior fire attack on that because we're not going to risk for that which is already lost. Now, we have a fire in an upstairs bedroom. Fire's coming out of one window. We open the front door on the first floor, and it's clear. There's no smoke. We're absolutely going to take a hose line inside. We're going to search the entire downstairs, and then we're going to send a crew to go put out the fire, and we're going to search the rest of the upstairs that's not on fire, right? So that is risk a lot to save a lot. So each person needs a self-assessment. So you need to assess yourself as a team member and look at your physical condition, mental condition, your attitude, and what type of human behavior. So that is extremely important, right? Are you strong enough to do the job? Are you feeling weak just that day? Are you sick? Do you have the flu? Do you have a really bad cold? If not, call out sick, right? Call out sick, that's what it's there for. If your crew member shows up at work and they're on probation and they're obviously sick, as a captain, you send them home even though they're on probation. And they'll be reluctant. But Cap, I don't want to get in trouble for using my sick leave. Dude, that's why we have sick leave. Go home. I got your back, dude. I'm your shield. I'm your armor bearer. Any flaming arrows, I'm going to protect you from that, right? And then your mental attitude. What's going on at home? Are you going through a severe issue with your significant other at the time? Is your kid in trouble at school every day? Are they whatever, right? Any type of life things, right? And that you're going through, you got to make sure that you have a way of, you have coping mechanisms, and your mental condition is good when you show up and you can concentrate on your job, particularly as a fire officer, right? And then what kind of attitude you have? Good attitude, bad attitude, I hate the fire department attitude. And then what kind of behavior are you sharing with your team as a leader? And then everyone should have the following characteristics when you're using the CRM model: healthy appreciation for personal and crew safety, respect for authority, willingness to accept orders, knowledge of limits of authority, desire to help leader to be successful, good communication skills, ability to provide constructive, pertinent feedback, ability to admit errors, ability to keep one's ego in check, ability to balance assertiveness and authority, learning attitude, ability to perform demanding tasks, and adaptability. So these are all traits that you should have as a leader in the fire service using the CRM model, which you should actually glean from this as well. So talk about task allocation with CRM refers to dividing up responsibilities to accomplish them effectively. We do that in the fire service. One person doesn't do everything. We share the load, and on the fire ground and in the fire station. And then task overload occurs when fire officer exceeds the capacity to manage. Your safety is then compromised. That's why we have the incident command system. You can only effectively manage or lead 3 to 7 people if you're a company officer, maximum being 7, and the optimum is 5. So 3 to 7 with the optimum being 5. You need to know your limits, and then the capacity of the team is a first step in task allocation. So if you have a bunch of new people on your team and they're not trained up yet, you need to open your mouth and let people know that, hey, we're not ready for this assignment. I got brand new people. And then remember, everybody's got an overload point. And if that happens, you need to let somebody know and then go ahead and then delegate out some of those tasks that you were assigned to another company. So that way you can manage your resources and be able to keep your head in the game. Right? Multitaskers. You're going to have to learn how to be a multitasker. Some people can't admit that they are overwhelmed and believe they become more effective and the more hectic things are. So we've proven in the military and in the emergency services world that people do, yes, they can multitask, but everybody has what's called task saturation, where you're done. You cannot take on any more information and your brain is fried. So you're going to have to break that out, and you're going to have to form up, you're going to have different people that are going to take on different task allocations to be able to get the job done. There's nothing wrong with that, right? And then some people get overwhelmed before the full complexity is even recognized. So you need to be able to recognize how complex of a situation that you're on and then deal with it. And then some effectively assess needs, ask for help, and stay ahead of the incident. And that's like when I learned how to fly a single engine aircraft, right? They always taught you need to stay ahead of the airplane and always fly the aircraft, right? So you got to think about what's next. What's next? What's next? Yeah, you got task number E completed. I need to think about F, and then I'm also need to start thinking about G and what's going to happen after that. So each officer has to evaluate personnel capacity to manage complicated situations and identify weak spots. Training and practice will help, but everyone has limitations. If limitations are known, action can be taken to compensate for that. And then you must also know your crew's limits. Understanding can be difficult to develop when the crew is constantly changing. So if you have people floating in and out of your firehouse, it makes it really tough. We do a 3-year bid. So that way you're going to work with the same people most of the time, except for when they're on vacation, sick leave. Overtime person will come in for fill for them. But you're going to be able to build those relationships so you can know their strengths and their weaknesses, their limitations, what they like to do, what they don't like to do. So some of the things we can do should be evaluated in non-emergency training classes, live training exercises, tabletop exercises, didactic, like what we're doing right here, mentoring and exchanging of information. So like we're not going to be a professional football team, or as my daughter goes to Oklahoma State University, you're not going to be the Cowboys and have a great successful football game every Saturday, if you don't go to practice, right? You got to practice. Making critical decision. So remember, input is welcome from all team members, but the final responsibility rests with the leader. Experienced officers rely on previous experience rather than traditional decision-making models. So it's called developing a slide tray. We'll take a moment. I know this lecture is a bit long. We're coming up on 2 hours right now with the combined lectures. But that's the way it's going to be for this class. So just be used to it. It's called developing a slide tray. So think about a PowerPoint presentation. You have a PowerPoint going on in your mind. So you go to your first structure fire as a firefighter. You get to be on the nozzle. You go in. It's a garage fire. And you go to the garage. The side door is open to the garage. You go through the gate that leads into the side yard. You bring those around. You're literally kneeling outside the door. The fire hasn't gotten inside the house yet. You put water in there. You flow water for 30 seconds to 45 seconds. You're flowing 3.2 gallons per second of water, or 162 gallons a minute. I believe it's 3.2. And then the fire goes out, right? Well, that slide goes in your slide tray, and you're going to use that thing the next time that you have a fire, which is rightfully done, right? So you basically, 2.7 gallons per second. You're basically building a memory bank of the incidents that you've been on. And so you may go to a fire that's involving the garage, but let's say it's a 4-car garage now instead of a 2-car garage, and now it's breached the attic of the garage and the roof above. You're going to have a new slide that's going to be entered into your slide tray. Well, on that one, we usually pull on the smaller fire. We're going to bring a 1 3/4 inch hose line. that flows the 2.7 gallons per minute or 162 gallons every 1 minute. Now we might need to bring that 2.25-inch hose with an 1.125 nozzle that flows 265 gallons a minute, which flows 4.41 gallons per second because there's more fire. The bigger the fire, the more water per gallon per minute and per second to overcome the British thermal units that are being pumped out from the burning process, right? So commanders, we're going to have to, make decisions that are now we're pressed for time in dynamic conditions with ambiguous data and multiple players in the game without real-time feedback. You're going to literally have to make split-second life-altering decisions, life and death decisions every single day on medical calls, on hazmat calls, on structural fire calls. It's going to happen every day, right? So you basically have two different types of CRM decision-making models. And you have the recognized prime, describes how commanders recognize plausible plan of action. Then you have the naturalistic, describes how commanders would make decisions in the natural environment. The more decisions that you make over the years and the bigger your slide tray gets, the more naturalistic that you're going to become. And you're going to be able to and you'll see this even with young firefighters that have natural instincts. So they're going to come into the fire department and they're just the ones that are good, right? I've got a kid now that he's 18, just turning 19. He's been through the academy, been through Firefighter 1 Academy, Firefighter 2 Academy. He's one of our interns. He works at Station 71, one of our busiest fire stations. And the kid is a natural, right? Not everybody's going to be that way. So your job as a company officer is going to teach them, right? But as time goes by, you're going to get more natural instincts. The military calls it developing muscle memory. That's why you don't just shoot your rifle one time in basic training. You're going to go to the range all the time. You're going to shoot it while you're laying down, while you're standing up, while you're sitting. You're going to run and drop down to laying down. You're going to shoot it while you're out of breath. You're going to shoot it with a gas mask on. All of that, right? I'm sure you guys have all seen it. So, you have to get people to that muscle memory by practice. And it's done through experience, training, improving communication, and then pre-incident planning, which is actually going out and planning and going over what are we going to do in this building if there's a fire, right? So practice makes perfect, and I've saw this on Engine Company Resurrection. Don't practice a skill until you get it right. Practice a skill until you can't get it wrong. That's a great quote, right? We're doing life and death things, life and death decisions. There's really no room for error, right? I don't mean to say that to be scary, but it's just the facts, right? You show up at somebody's house and then you're expected to be able to put them on the cardiac monitor and then put them on the fast patches and defibrillate them and give them the correct medication and save their life. You really can't be fumble farting around with that, right? And then you got to have supervisors that are in command to make sure that the incident runs smoothly and effectively. We got to improve our situational awareness, make sure the hazards are rapidly identified. And then if you have resources and their capabilities, you got to assess what are their capabilities, what can they do for you, what kind of jobs can you give them. And then potential solutions more rapidly developed, decision-making improved, and then surprises of unanticipated problems are reduced by using the CRM decision-making model. So SITSTAT, situational awareness, is ongoing assessment of what is going on and around you in dynamic and complex environment, affects performance and decision-making. Without it, or errors are going to occur, performance is going to suffer, and catastrophe can result. Think about our Swiss cheese, right? So we got to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. It's communicated correctly on the emergency training or the emergency grounds, even on the training grounds. We have people that are injured and actually have been killed on the training grounds as well. You can have Swiss cheese on the training grounds. So some of these things are a little bit difficult to explain, but you're going to definitely recognize them in hindsight. And it carries over into non-incident operations, like we said in training. Human tendency is to ignore or disregard information out of context. Officer needs to constantly check and cross-check situations and performance to make sure that things are getting done correctly. Okay, maintaining emergency scene situational awareness. Fight the fire. Keep the big picture in mind, right? If something goes down and you're the commander, continue to fight the fire. If you have an engine failure on your Cessna 172 and your engine dies, you're going to have to still fly the airplane. You don't take your hands off the yoke and then start closing your eyes and pray. You got to find an emergency landing spot and fly the damn airplane and land it somewhere, right? And they teach you that from day one when you take your private pilot. You are always going to fly the aircraft no matter what. So keep fighting the fire. Assess problems in the time available, balance between rushing ahead and waiting for more information, and then gather information from all sources. One person can't see, hear, know, smell, touch everything. So you're going to need input, right? So when you're a commander and you're as a company officer, you're going to show up and you do water supply. You're also going to take command of the incident. And you need to know what your crew on the inside of the house is doing so you can give them the resources that they need. And you're going to remain in command of that fire until the battalion chief arrives. Somebody has to take the incident commander's position, and maybe even the first two engine. If you show up and it's that house we were talking about with fire blowing out of every window and every door, first and engine can go ahead and take command, and then they're going to assign out jobs for all of the units that are coming in. So somebody's got to be in charge of that thing, right? And then choose the best option. Minimize your risk, maximize your results. Always have a plan B, right? I like to have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. So you have your initial plan, you have a contingency plan, and then you have an emergency plan. You should have 3 plans for everything that you're doing. So beware of situational awareness loss factors. So people being ambiguous, distraction, fixation, overload. It's the same list, right? Nobody's fighting the fire. I've seen that a lot. Hose line gets left on the ground and it's still burning and everybody's mulling around. You need to call it out, grab a freaking hose line and start fighting the fire. Fire's not going to go out till you put it out, right? And then checklist, say your checklist out loud if that makes you feel good when preparing for low frequency, high risk. A lot of the stuff we do is low frequency, high risk evolutions. High angle rope rescue, confined space rescue, hazardous material incidents, commercial structure fires. They don't happen very often and they're high risk. So we got to pay attention to those. Some form of after AAR, after action review, or post-incident analysis should be conducted at the company level. Well, we're going to do that for sure, but we're also going to do it at the battalion level. So we just had a pretty decent fire, it's been a week ago now, and we have GoPro, 27 minutes of GoPro footage from the exterior of the building from the battalion chief's vehicle, and we're going to do a complete AAR, after action review, and we're going to publish it and everybody in the fire department can see it. Now, each one of those company officers, they talked amongst themselves with their crews, but before they left, before they disbanded and everybody went home after the fire, the battalion chief got everybody together and in an AAR, you say, what went really well and what didn't go so well that you could improve, right? Now, they want you to change the language and say, what went well, and then what could you improve upon? So they don't want you to say what went bad. Whatever, dude. If your feelings get hurt over those words, then probably not going to be a good company officer. So what went well and what didn't go well or what went bad that you can improve. Absolutely should be done on any call where you have multiple companies show up, where you have an active incident. A fire, a hazmat, a rescue, a motor vehicle accident with multiple patients, and you can get together at the station afterwards and chat with everybody, right? Reinforce that positive performance, plan for addressing problems, and then you should involve multi-company operations and review them as a whole team. And then critique of large-scale incidents by comparison can be a major event involving into extensive pre-planning, scheduling, and preparations. So depending on what happens, you could have some real change that comes out of your organization. So conducting a PIA, you're going to schedule as soon as conveniently possible. At small incidents, you can do it while you're there. Large scale, should limit it to the officers, and the small scale, you can do it with everybody. Start with an overview of the background information. First arriving officer describes situation on arrival. Each successive company take a turn explaining what they saw and what they did. Can produce a diagram of an incident on dry erase board if you have one. And then photographs and videos, recordings also can be used. And then we're going to go ahead and straight up just do a written PIA or a AAR after action review on that to make sure that if it's a significant incident that everybody learns from it. You need to have a moderator that's going to keep people in check. Sometimes emotions run high if somebody didn't get what they wanted or something happened on the incident that pissed somebody off. So, and then you're going to talk about this list here of how command was developed, resources allocated, in unusual problems, standard operating procedures, and all of that. So officer directing analysis should offer perspective and assessment, have attendees identify positive and negative points, and list future improvements, and then list on the board for everyone to see the final product. That's if you have an opportunity. We can do that at the training grounds where you have a grease board that you can write on. And then documentation follow-up. We're going to write summary of incident for department records. Obviously, this is our PIA. We call it an AAR, after action review. You're obviously going to be doing a report. At the bottom here, you see NFIRS, that's National Fire Incident Reporting Systems. And then that is basically a report that has to be done for every single call that you generate. If you get dispatched to a medical aid and they cancel you en route, you have to go back and do the report that says that you were going to a medical aid and you got canceled en route. So all you have to write on your report is canceled en route. And then you're going to have an arson fire or that several people died in. That is going to be a report of reports where you're going to be writing that thing for several hours. So we talked about report writing in this class, that you need to learn how to do MLA and APA. My bachelor's program was APA. I hated it, but I learned how to do it because they told me to. So I was operating off of the incident commander who was my teachers. They told me I had to do it, so I did it, right? All right, you guys, so this is the end of the lecture. This is a summary. We're not going to go through the summary slides. There's 10 additional summary slides that you're more than welcome to look at. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this out and I'm going to post it. So I have about 50-some minutes on the first one. That's going to be lecture chapter 2 alpha or A, and this is going to be lecture chapter 2 Bravo. So watch first, obviously, A and then B. So if you watch this one first, and you get to the end of it, you know you got it backwards. So anyways, all the information that you need, read your chapter, take your quiz. Quizzes are going to be due on this class. They'll be due on Sunday night at midnight. So you have the rest of the week to do chapter 2. And you also need to make sure that you finish your case study. And remember, when you write that, even if you're using the text box, you can make paragraphs. Just hit the enter button, and then it'll separate and give you a line in between, so I know you're starting a new paragraph, right? Avoid the run-on sentences. Avoid misspelling and grammatical errors. Try to do a nice, clean job. So this isn't just about being a company officer and being that guy leading the charge into the house fire and saving babies. You also got to learn how to write well as well. So, all right, everybody, have a blessed week and enjoy the rest of your classes. And then we'll see you on here for lecture number 3 coming up next week. And we'll see you later.